Let us begin this general accounting course with the question, what is a firm? There are two ways to create wealth, either in autarky, that is working for oneself, or producing to sell, that is exchange with other people. And in this case, we talk about a firm. There are many types of firms. Let's describe the most typical. It is a group of people with production tools, that is machines, located in some premises who, with work, transform raw materials into goods and services and sell them. Let's look at a picture. Here is the firm. It owns buildings, machines, inventories, other things, and it has some money. It buys raw materials and other purchases. It buys work, and it produces and sells goods and services. The work actually is bought from either its own employees or from subcontractors. The difference is that the employees do not belong to the firm in the sense of machines, but they are linked to the firm with a contract, a work contract. So they are tied somehow to the firm. They are the group of people I just talked about. And this is the flows of tangible goods and services. Let's look at the contraflow of money. These goods and services are sold on markets and exchanged for money. There is some reserve of money within the firm, and the firm with money pays for its raw materials and for its other purchases, and it also pays for the work it buys, either from its own employees or from subcontractors. We distinguish three big types of firms. Industrial firms, think of a workshop or either a big plant. Commercial firms, think of a retailer around the corner in the street or a wholesaler. And financial firms, the two main financial firms are banks and insurance companies, but there are many more like mutual funds and various people in the business of selling and buying financial securities. Let's look a little bit at history. We shall actually devote one lesson to the history of firms. Industrial firms, the way we know them, modern industrial firms, date from after the Industrial Revolution. That is this big social and economic change that happened first of all in England, in the United Kingdom, in the second half of the 18th century, that is between 1750 and 1800. That was caused essentially by two things: social changes, the so-called enclosures, and secondly, the invention of the steam engine that made practical the gathering of a large workforce in a plant, which was not the case before. Before that, industrial production, except for some exceptions like shipyards and the manufactures of Colbert, the industrial production was done in very small shops or via the so-called putting out system, but there were no big plants. Commercial firms and banks have a different history. Of course, you can say that they exist, commercial firms, since the beginning of times, but modern commercial firms, they date from after the year 1000 in Europe, and more specifically in northern Italy. In this period, mostly the 12th and the 13th century, Western Europe knew a big development, demographic, that's when we needed last names, cultural, we built cathedrals, we founded universities, and commercial, and also we launched the Crusades to pretendedly conquer back the Holy Land, essentially to check the power of the Byzantine Empire and the power of the Arabs. But it was also the time of a big commercial development In particular, sprang the so-called trade fairs all over Europe. Firms have a legal structure, and there are several legal structures. Firms are moral persons. They can sign contracts, hire people, buy, sell, etc. And since the 19th century, all over the world, most of them are what's called limited liability firms. That is, the owners who put the initial money in the firm, in a way that we shall see, have their liability limited to the amount of money they put in the firm. If the firm goes bankrupt and owes a lot of money, the owners cannot lose more than the money they had put at first in the firm. And these limited liability structures, we can distinguish two types. The smaller type, where the shares are between a few people and are stable, and large listed corporations, listed on stock markets, that is large corporations where the stocks or the shares, that's the same thing, can be exchanged freely on a stock market. Let's finish with this observation. Industrial firms, they transform what they buy. That is, they buy raw materials, and from that they make things, goods and also services, and they sell the finished goods. Commercial firms do not transform anything. What they buy physically is the same as what they sell. Their value added has to do with transportation, warehousing, displaying, helping clients, etc. Banks, in a very simple view of banks, but that's the basic role of banks, they receive deposits from depositors and they lend money to people who need money for various projects. We shall see in further lessons that to run a firm, the managerial team needs a lot of information, lots of information, I should say. And these pieces of information are organized in various management information systems, sometimes called MIS. And accounting is only one of them. The managerial team needs to keep track of all sorts of things related to money, but also to people, to machines, to clients, to banks, to relationships with the authorities. In other words, lots of information. And the topic of this course is general accounting.